Welcome to Caseback Watches, my name is Tim, and in this episode our topic is the Arsenale Avventurina made by Venezianico with a very special dial. The word Arsenale refers to a military complex in Old Venice, nice site for tourists with a harbor and some interesting buildings, and back then really in use to enforce the military power of Venice. And Venezianico, the Italian brand, named then a line of watches after that complex. And I had one or two here for reviews, and I found some minor issues like always, but the overall packaging was very nice, or the overall offer, let's say, very contemporary in size, very flat, comfortable on the wrist, and with good Italian design. And now they asked me if I want to review the Aventurina, Arsenale Avventurina, with that interesting dial, and I said yes, because I found the look pretty interesting. And before we go into the light box, before we check out everything in detail, I think we should clarify the material, because when we hear Aventurine we think of that gem, okay, because it's a natural material, natural gem, comes in various colors, green for example, or red or gray. And inside of that gem are little particles of minerals, and these minerals create reflections, and so you have this glimmer on the material, or inside of the material. It gives a very interesting and attractive look. And now we have to understand the difference between the natural material, Aventurine, and Aventurine glass, because that's exactly what we have here. And the story goes that centuries ago in Italy, some manufacturing plant had liquid glass, very hot glass, and somebody spilled copper particles into that mass. And these copper particles then created the sparkle we know from Aventurine. And by the way, the name Aventurine goes back to the Italian word avventura, which I've learned is not adventure, it's by chance. And so they found or invented Aventurine by chance, but we have to distinguish between the natural gem, you can find it like it is, and the Aventurine glass you have to manufacture with glass and some particles you spill in there. And this explains why you can make this glass in various colors, because we all know, we wine drinkers know, that you can make glass at least in brown, green, blue, red, and so forth and so on. And that's exactly what we hear, so technically we could say this is a glass dial. And here we are with our Venezianico Arsenale Avventurina. There you go, here on the rubber strap, because I had some issues with the bracelet. We will go over that too, but let's start with the basic measurements first. We have here a case diameter of 40 millimeters, a length lug to lug of 44, and the height is 9.95, so let's say 10 millimeters, including the sapphire crystal with anti-reflective coating. Then we have a screw-down crown, a water resistance of 50 meters, which is a bit odd, more of that later. And inside we have the Miyota 9039 automatic movement. And on this rubber strap here, the watch is priced at 800 euros with VAT, so without VAT and converted into US dollars, I think you are around, what is it then? 700, 690 in that region. And as said, I had the Arsenale in the studio before, and I enjoyed the case with these integrated lugs here, or integrated strap I should say, because the case is, first it's handsome, it's fairly complex, and it's very comfortable on the wrist. For me 40 millimeters is a relatively big size, but here it's really wearable. There you have the case back with the Arsenale, and overall very interesting to look at, very nice angles. But now the dial is our star here, as often with Venezianico watches, and here you have the Aventurine. This is the typical look of Aventurine glass with a fingerprint on it. Let's rub that away. There you go. And you see that the anti-reflective coating works. See that? Massive light sources around me, but the watch can handle this. And it's pure as it gets. You have the Venezianico cross there, a nice set of hands, very puristic. A bit of lume, which I find not super necessary on this type of watch, but alright. and very subtle indices. And this goes, I think, nicely together with the case, I find. For example, you have a bit of a coin edge bezel and all these complex form together with the simplicity of the dial. This makes a very attractive mix in my eyes. And you see that the material reacts to light. We will go out as well in this video to check it under broad daylight. But you already can see, I think, how it reacts to light. Not in every position these watches are super legible. Let me find a bad position. Something like this. Then it's not super legible. So if you are a tool watch guy, this will never be your perfect watch. It is a piece of jewelry, and I think it can fulfill this role pretty good. There you go. The functionality is pretty basic. We have a screw-down crown. I criticized the screw-down crown, I think, in one of my last videos because I don't like this slightly scratchy material. I don't know what kind of alloy this is. I think they use this so that the crown, which is relatively small, is a bit grippy to make it more comfortable to manipulate. And so Miyota 9039, pretty basic thing, but again does the job perfectly fine in most cases. Hand winding, you have position 1. This is pretty stiff here, but it's okay, it's okay. And then the movement is hackable, and then you can set the time. What I like with Miyota movements, even if you are a bit rough with them, I have the tendency to be a bit rough with movements, it can take it because it's a pretty solid thing. So the thread here is relatively short, and I think that's one of the reasons for the water resistance of only 50 meters. And the second reason is are these screws. I can imagine that this is way harder to attach the caseback with these screws instead with a normal caseback. And why did they do this? Because they want the Arsenale in that position. I'm 100% sure that this is the reason behind it. And then you can argue, well, I would prefer a water resistance of 100 meters so I could enjoy this watch in the pool, for example. And I think it's a great pool watch. But they had another vision, and I respect that. And so 50-meter water resistance, which, by the way, could be enough for the pool, but I would check this before you go into your vacation, visit your watchmaker, and let him do a quick water resistance check with the watch. And this is the bracelet, and I had these bracelets before. You can buy them additional, as an addition for, I think, 100 bucks, so it doesn't break the bank. But this was a terrible piece, I must say. Terrible, because I have to alter every bracelet, of course. And these works with screws, or I should say it didn't work with screws, because you can unscrew single links, but you cannot screw them in, again, these pins. There's something wrong with the thread. And then I had this issue one time, and I thought, okay, maybe it's my fault, maybe the idiot is behind the camera, because when you angle these screws a tiny bit and you enter the thread in an odd way, then sometimes you have this issue that the pin tries to cut another thread into the original, and then you have a bit of a problem, if you know what I mean. But I had this issue with 3 of these pins. You could unscrew these pins, but you cannot screw them in again. And this is, of course, plain shit. And so this is not usable. This is just not usable. This is a crappy Monday production. The bracelet type is fine. I really like it, butterfly clasp, so that you have a very subtle closing point. This is very nice, but the manufacturing quality here is just rubbish. In all fairness, I have to say, when you review a Venezianico piece, they don't do this with press release pieces. This is the model that sometimes manufacturers just have a couple of watches for the press, and they're checked and they're ready to wear. Sometimes they even ask you about your wrist size. Venezianico just sends you a brand new watch straight from the factory with all tags on, with rubber sealing and plastic on, which is pretty cool because then you have the customer's experience unfiltered. But unfortunately, then you have from time to time these problems here, these issues. And if you have something like that, this is clearly a return. You really should return that. Don't try to force the pin in their position with force, because the thread, the pin will try to cut another thread with, which is not really possible, and then you ruin the strap. And so this is a bit disappointing, but again, it happens. So it's not the end of the world if you see something like that. Then return the damn thing. And you could now argue that I'm not really capable to do this myself because I'm not a watchmaker, but I have reviewed here hundreds of watches, and basically every, or let's say 90% of all bracelets you see here on the channel are altered by me. And so I think I've proven a couple of times that I'm capable doing that, but in this case it was impossible. But at least it proves that this is a real, not staged, not sponsored review. And Venezianico, very sorry, but I'm convinced that you guys make great work. This is the exception, and the exception is part of our daily life, so not a drama. And now let's carry on. Let's put the watch on the wrist. And there you have it, 40mm watch, so relatively big for my 17cm wrist, but comfortable. Comfortable at the same time, very nice fit, sits nicely on my wrist, and so I feel very, very comfortable really wearing that watch. Pretty good. And now let's go out, let's check it out under broad daylight. Welcome back, and I wanted to let you know that you can speak pretty pretentious about Aventurine. Throughout history, Aventurine has been used in jewelry, carvings and spiritual rituals. Today it's appreciated not only for its natural beauty, but also for its calming, confidence-boosting presence. In case you believe in such things, of course. I do not, but we have here in Germany sometimes older folks, all the people, and they have this collection of gems, and especially the women really believe, old ladies really believe in the strength of these stones. And yeah, why not? I mean, it's a very harmless superstition, but yeah, why not? And the last important information here is that you can pre-order the watch right now, but delivery will start end of June. And that's it for this episode. Thank you very much for your attention, and until next time.